All right, tonight's pick. I like Miami getting 2.5 at Philadelphia. Um, this is a battle of two teams trying to get out of the play-in. Indiana, who's half game up, is also playing tonight against Cleveland. And Cleveland's going to have a bunch of guys out, so this is a game that's a game that Indiana could win. So this is a big game for both these teams. I just think Miami has more right now than Philadelphia does. Maxey is obviously playing at a very high level, but his supporting cast, it's hit and miss, especially with Tobias Harris. And I just think that Miami is more of a big game team, and this certainly qualifies as a big game in the regular season. And I don't think Philadelphia has enough on either end to contain Miami. I just think without Embiid, these two teams matched up, Miami's the better basketball team. So big game, big moment. Miami getting 2.5. I like them at Philadelphia to get the win and an inch closer to getting out of that play-in scenario.
You're listening to
They're going to call it a hard foul. They're going to call it a hard foul.
offering in-depth analysis on all things Boston Celtics. With your hosts, Jim and Mike Quigley.
Mike, it's hot foul!
Another
episode, are you going to call this a hot foul?
I'm so horny. Oh,
hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hot Foul. Good God. We're into the doldrums of the season right now where there isn't a lot to play for the Celtics. They absolutely destroyed the Wizards last night. Sam Hauser had 10 threes in 23 minutes before hurting his ankle. Tatum 30 points in a little over 2.5 quarters. And the Celtics rolled against a team that shouldn't even be in the NBA. And they play another team that shouldn't be in the NBA tonight against the Detroit Pistons. And who knows who the Celtics are going to roll out there and what their lineups are going to look like. There will be no Porzingis. There will be no Hauser. And
there'll be no Horford.
More out. Yeah, there'll be no Horford. It's just really these are the worst franchises, Mike. The Wizards, just a complete disaster. They said on the telecast last night, 4 home wins. NC State won more games this week at their home court than they did all season. And then the Pistons, who, I think have been to the playoffs once in like the last 15 years, have the longest playoff losing streak in the NBA, 14 games. Just two disasters of franchises. I don't really know what to say. Do you have anything you want to add? Maybe talk about Phoenix in that game there? I'm not sure.
I'm looking forward to Wednesday night. I think it'll be probably the first time this year that both teams are well rested going into the game. That hopefully both teams will be at full strength with Milwaukee and Boston. So kind of a marquee regular season game for this time of year, which is exciting. I think the game matters to both of the teams, even though it doesn't impact the standings. So I'm looking forward to that. As far as the Phoenix game goes, I think we saw more of it yesterday. The Phoenix Suns just can't defend the three-point line. And that's going to be their kryptonite. They cannot defend the three-point line at all.
They're the worst good team in the NBA.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah,
they really are.
No toughness at all, like zero toughness, and they can't defend.
And they don't really have a point guard, right?
Not really.
Like on the entire roster.
Everything's kind of isolation.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the Bucks game yesterday, so I'm sure you're right. They can't defend a three, but if they run into teams in the playoffs or like the Celtics that don't help off their best players, they're kind of screwed. And then they don't have really much of a surrounding cast. It just doesn't feel like it all.
Yeah, I did watch the game between the Bucks and Phoenix Suns. It was two teams that were disinterested in playing any defense.
I saw the score. It was like 130-something or 120-something, I think, or something along those lines.
The Bucks put up 140, through 4 quarters. Yeah.
So, it's pretty bad. It looked like Durant was a no-show. I thought the Celtics kind of just methodically, they shot lights out, obviously. But like you said, a lot of those they felt like just practice shots. They were just wide open shots all game long. The only ones that I felt like shot contested threes were Tatum and Brown, which is going to happen, I think, every day, every game. But it felt easy. You might, and then
If you want me to break down anything right now, I think Jaylen Brown might be playing the best basketball of his career.
yeah,
On both ends, and it's on both ends of the floor. And as bad as the Wizards are, excuse me, Jesus, as bad as the Wizards are, it felt like the Celtics have been really locked in defensively. They didn't disrespect their opponent yesterday. They were defending hard against that Wizards team, which really made the game like uber unfair. Typically these like shitty teams get a little bit of a shot because the good team just doesn't show up defensively at all. But Celtics seem kind of locked in right now on the defensive end, which is a good side going into the playoffs. So yeah, Brown's been playing out of his mind. He's doing better with his left hand. His 3-point shot has been very consistent, and his defense has been there every night.
Yeah, his defense has been great. And you're right, he's been the best player since the All-Star break. Just been scoring at a high level. I think almost playing with something to prove, and he's certainly better. It seems like he's improved his game again, better from what it was even a year ago. The question just kind of remains as it is with this entire Celtics team.
Yeah.
What does it look like when things get tough in the playoffs? Do they revert to bad habits, or is this really a new, mature, well-oiled machine that it looks and feels like, but you can't really get too excited until you see these moments. Are they going to go 7 again with the team they shouldn't go 7 against? Are they going to put themselves in a position where they're going to be in an elimination game where they shouldn't be? If they play in Miami, are they going to get caught in that type of scrappy kind of, weird defenses and let that bother them? Or are they just going to exploit the mismatches and the opportunities that are presented to them, and as they should, So it's what Brown's doing is great, but the defense is great. I'm interested to see what happens in Milwaukee with Porzingis out. I want to see how Tillman does against Giannis. I think that's interesting. I don't expect Porzingis will be playing on Wednesday. So those things are all fun and interesting to watch, but I think we're at the point now where it's what's going to happen in the playoffs, right?
Oh, and it's about staying healthy. So
yeah.
Getting Porzingis back is the most important thing they could do. Is making sure he's good to go, and then obviously, I think the Sam Hauser injury is something I'm really anxious to find out how serious it is, because I think he's a big part of this rotation, and I do think they need him to play in the playoffs. He plays an important piece, and Tatum plays so good with Hauser on the floor.
Yep.
So I'm really anxious to see what happens with that.
Yeah, Hauser, I mean, it happened. It was such a fluke play. He was, it didn't even happen in the action. He was backing up and stepped on a guy's foot on the bench.
Yeah.
Of all things. And, they were, they seem to be resting guys. They're doing the appropriate things, and it just goes to show that you can take all the precautions that you want to take. It's still basketball and injuries can happen. Hopefully it's not serious. I thought it was encouraging that he was at least able to walk off under his own, on his own. And they got plenty of time for him to rest if it's just a sprain. And, that will give other guys an opportunity. Maybe Matuak, we'll see some minutes, and, if something happened in the playoffs, maybe that makes him more ready. I guess that's the only way you can look at it. But I wasn't overly concerned with the injury, but no one should read anything into that because I'm not a doctor. But I thought the fact that he was able to walk off under his own power was a bit encouraging anyways, And they said they were giving him an x-ray last night as a precautionary, but I haven't seen anything out today, definitive on how that came back. Did you say anything, Mike?
No, and he didn't talk to the media.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we'll see
Yeah, and
what
that game
happens
had
with that.
another scary moment too. I didn't know if you caught Holiday coming off the screen and
I
like
did.
rubbing his shoulder. Yeah, that's the one that scared me initially.
I know. When I saw that, I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Yeah, it was like an instant reaction. It was kind of a dirty screen too.
Oh, that game got pretty dirty last night.
Yeah, it was all one guy.
Yeah.
I don't even remember his name.
Yeah, and he was probably playing like the best game of his season too.
Yeah, and then he left.
He acting like that.
And he left injured himself, spraining his ankle. So, yeah, that's one thing you worry about in these games down the stretch is you just hope to see everyone healthy and get through this. And they're obviously Hindle and I think Porzingis appropriate and not pushing him at all. And they said last night that he was just getting into shooting today, potentially. So I doubt we see him Wednesday if that's the case. That means he's not even
Are you
running.
concerned about that at all with it being a hamstring?
Not yet. No, we're so far away from the playoffs, and there's no reason to play him or rush him. The fact he's out every game, he seems okay. I think if this was these 16 games mattered and he needed to get on the floor, they'd be concerned about, rushing him back and re-aggravating this thing. But I think there's just so much time between now and before the games matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
the NBA in general, I just looking around the league, the play-ins are getting. I mean, we talked about in the last pod. Definitely interesting out east. You got Philly and Indiana and one more team in there. Miami, kind of all playing for that 7 seed. I know that. I think both Philly and Miami are either 37-30 or something like. No, what is it? Yeah, maybe 37-30 and 36-30.
Yeah, they're all right there where it's like 37-30 to 36-30. It's all right there. So the Sixers are 37-30, the Heat are 37, and the Pacers are 38-30, and even the Knicks are only 2 games or 3 games up on the Sixers, so it's all kind of jumbled in there. What's crazy
I don't think anybody's touching the Knicks, so.
Yeah, what's crazy is the Bucks are closer to the Sixers than they are to the Celtics in the standings. So the second seed is closer to the 8 than they are to the 1. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting, and just for my own personal preference, the playoff match, and it doesn't look like it's going to end up this way anymore, but I really wanted to see a Knicks Heat first round playoff series, and I really want to see a Bucks Pacers first round playoff series. I think those two, based on just kind of history, would be very, very entertaining. And this game on Wednesday is a big game for the Bucks, not just to send a message to the Celtics, but they have to be concerned about having home court advantage even in the second round, right? If they're playing the Cavs, and they're only up a game and a half on the Cavs, only 1 in the loss column. So if they go down to the Celtics Wednesday night, they could be in a virtual tie for that second seed with the Cavs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other part of it too is, excuse me, I don't think the Bucks have been that great on the road this year. So I think that plays into it too, that these games mean a lot to them down the stretch. And Cleveland plays so well at home as well. So that'll be a really interesting second round series if they both get out of the first round. I think that'll be like kind of must watch basketball. I think that has 7-game potential written all over it. For the Celtics, I mean, I'm kind of rooting for Indiana to hold on to that 6th seed. That's a team I'm kind of looking at as I don't think they'd beat the Celtics, but we'd be looking at a longer series just because of the way Indiana plays. I think they can give Boston some trouble. I'm kind of hoping that Philly falls into that 8th seed. I don't think Embiid's coming back. I just don't see it.
Yeah, what's been interesting about Indiana is they really have not been as good a basketball team since the Siakam trade. They've been a bit
Yeah.
better defensively. They've really fallen off offensively. They were the number one offensive team in the NBA. Before the trade, they're number 6 now, I think, at least of a couple of days ago. So maybe that changed a little bit, but we wondered what that would do to their offense because Siakam plays such a different game, and I think it certainly has had an effect, and I don't think it's been a positive one. They're better defensively, but I think you can make an argument that they may not be a better overall team since that the record at least shows that they have not been a better overall team since that trade.
And they lost Benedict Mathurin too, right,
Mhm.
for the season.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's a big loss. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's been playing really well. He's been playing really well. Mike, this our podcast is called Hot Foul. Obviously, it was named after the great Tommy Heinsohn and his passion for the Celtics. That's why we named it this pod. They're going to call it a hard foul ? Exclamation point. It's just line straight from a game where he was in full form and just all over the officials. I think we were blessed for a long, long time here to have Tommy Heinsohn and Mike Gorman call the games. They just made things so much fun. I think about all the great calls. Tommy's just, unabashed homerism, just so over the top, saying things about referees. Like, I hope your wife loves you because no one here in this building loves you tonight.
His obsession with Aaron Baines and the way he looked.
Yeah, and then the Walter and calling IT little guy and just the affection that he had for the team, and as well as giving insight. They made bad games entertaining, and then Mike Gorman was just so good in the big moments, and he was so good at being kind of the straight man to Tommy's act and calling a game, and you felt like Mike Gorman could have been thrown into any sport at any time, and he'd just be a professional play-by-play guy and absolutely nail it. I think it's it's a lost art. I think that homerism is actually really missing. We don't get it anywhere in Boston sports media anymore at all. It doesn't feel like. You certainly don't get it on the Celtics telecast anymore. There is no channel you can turn to just hear that type of affection towards the home team. Maybe it doesn't sell anymore. Maybe in demos it doesn't work. But
I think the closest thing we had was Dennis Eckersley with the Red Sox. He was fantastic, and then he left. I guess Scott Zolak, he does a good job on the radio when he calls the games. But you're right. I mean, I've come to like Scals. I think he's good. I do. But we were really spoiled. I even think back to like some of the big calls with Mike Gorman, like especially Paul Pierce buzzer beaters with Got It, or the shot over Al Harrington. There's just so many that come to mind. I remember too, Stuart Scott would really get a kick out of Tommy Heinsohn. Like ESPN would always on SportsCenter, like the morning after, if Tommy had a rant or just was like losing his mind, they would just go like through the top 10 Tommy Heinsohn moments from that one game. It would just be like really, really funny because the stuff he was saying was just like so outrageous. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it, Jim. I mean, that was a Hall of Fame combo. Those are 2 Hall of Fame announcers, in my opinion. I don't know if Tommy's in the Hall of Fame yet for being an announcer, but he should be. And I think Mike Gorman's on his way there if he's not already. So,
yeah, no, they were great, and you nailed the Al Harrington thing. I'm glad I forgot about Aaron Baines. I think he said that. His exact quote.
Naked, I think.
I'll tell you. I took a look at Baines in the shower, and he looks like all of Australia. He's really put together. Oh God, that was the thing where it was just.
He would
he was
compare Greg
informative, he
Steensma
was
to like,
funny, you know. I
yeah,
like you say Scal's okay. I actually think he's gotten worse as the years have gone by. And I don't think this young guy, Drew Cotter, is really a great. I don't think he brings out the best in Scal.
oh,
Hopefully that.
Drew Cott is just a retread of like every announcer in sports, man.
And he's not even a Boston guy. There is no
Oh,
institutional knowledge. You know, the other day, the other game, they were talking about McHale's 56-point game, and they mentioned Bird breaking it like 10 days later, but they didn't bring up like he was on with Eddie House, and there was no Eddie House was like, yeah, you knew Bird was going to break that, but there was no conversation about how Bird told McHale he better get 60 because he's going
yeah.
to do it, soon or whatever. Like he actually said it to McHale. It's part of the Celtics folklore. It's a conversation you need to have on that telecast, and the fact that he doesn't know even the interesting stories of the history of the team, I think detracts from the telecast. It detracts from young listeners. I feel like he was like tested, in demos or whatever, and this is what they thought would attract listeners. I don't know, but it's just so bland. It
I think
doesn't
the
feel like
closest thing we
Boston.
get now is probably Grandy and Max.
Yeah,
And Max is awesome. He really is. I don't know if he could do TV, but he's great on the radio. Grandy, I don't think I've heard him do live games on TV, and I never liked it. But at the same time, he was doing it with Scals. He wasn't doing it with Max. I wonder, like, if they made a mistake there, and it should have been Grandy and Max that went to TV after Gorman retired, because they are one of the best radio basketball combos in the NBA. I mean, you listen to NBA radio.
I like Max. Randy's okay to me. He can be long-winded in storytelling, and
Big time,
gets
But I
away
think they
from
work
it,
well together.
yeah. But which is fine for radio because you got to make up that airtime. You don't always have to talk on TV. You can let the game speak for itself, and he can't help himself to just keep going and going. I'm just looking over some of these great Heinsohn calls. I mean, he lost his mind in a preseason game when Garnett got ejected.
Preseason game.
His reactions to IT's 52-point game, the 3-pointer, and just Gorman laughing, when he's just screaming the little guy,
Yeah.
It's just great. The I Love Walter stuff, obviously, the Tommy points, which they continued, and it's completely lost its fun now that he's not around anymore, where he would just scream out, "That's a Tommy point," over the most random things. It's completely missing. And at times now it feels like, especially when it's Cotter and Scal, they will lose track of the game and they'll like be talking about college basketball. Or I feel like at times they get more excited about the opposing team making a run than they do the Celtics. And it's just, if I wanted that, I can watch a national broadcast. And, hopefully with experience, maybe crowd is only getting the road crowd so that he's not getting the home crowd to kind of get him more involved in it right now. Maybe that will change, but it's just not good. And I know tonight it's going to be the all-woman telecast, which is, fine. But I think
who's calling the game?
I don't even know who the woman is. Abby Chin's doing the color. I've never heard.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, but I think,
I just can't think of a second woman, like a second female. I can't think of somebody.
No,
like
they
from
had
Boston,
it all. They
those
showed it on the
games.
telecast who it was going to be last night. I didn't recognize anyone. But I think my bigger point, it just shows the amount of time that's left. With Gorman, you have only a few more home games, and then he will call the first round, and then that's going to be it. And where this season has been, the suspense is gone. The Celtics are going to be the 1 seed. I thought this was a good opportunity to just at least capture what they've meant to the Celtics franchise and to Celtics fans. And I don't think we'll ever get that type of entertainment and professionalism again. I just don't. I think it's, you know, even Gorman's way up where he was calling college basketball games from under the bleachers. You know, I'm just trying to make it. I'm not sure you get that anymore. And
and how he got into the career.
What's that?
How he got into his career too, just showing up.
Yeah.
You know, he told the story. I forget. Maybe it was on the radio. I was listening to it, but basically, he got there at the right time, and somebody like said, "Why don't you come back?" And then they looked in his car and they saw his military hat that he served, and they said, "You know what? Why don't you come in right now? We'll get you set up. You can meet the guy." And that was his foot in the door. He's just talking about, imagine if I did put my hat in the back seat of the car that day. It was a really interesting story. I mean, these two, they were great, Jim. And it's never going to be this. We're never going to get that again. Ever. Nothing's going to be like that.
All right, Mike. Let's just do a quick listen in of this great sound from Tommy giving it to LeBron.
Well, LeBron started crying about 4 possessions ago, and he's done it twice without a handkerchief. LeBron is giving it the old, I'm the king. You're making a jester out of me. Well, it's the great LeBron. We're not fouling him out. Well, he'll get like 12 fouls in a game. After what LeBron has been doing to everybody, they call that. He's a crybaby. He didn't even. Wow.
And that's exactly what we're missing. We're missing that energy, that fun, that laughter, of all that stuff that Tommy brought. That was great, calling him the king, a crybaby, all that. I just don't even know if anyone can get away with that anymore. But that's exactly what we're missing.
There was another guy that Heinsohn loved with Semi Erden. It's like another guy.
Well, that was the thing.
He'd get all horned up for.
Yeah, they would suck so bad. And you went through that whole period from like the mid-90s to the early 2000s, the mid-2000s, where they were just a bad basketball team for the majority.
Yeah.
And they made it fun. They found ways to make it fun. You know, they found ways to keep you engaged. Heinsohn's disgust would just come out at times about how they played. And he would take it out on the officials.
You gotta run.
Yeah.
You gotta run.
And so, you know, that part is missed. And, you know, at times it's unfortunate. I just don't feel like even when the Celtics are on national TV, the broadcast is that much different than flipping over to TNT or whatever. So, Mike, I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts for this pod? This has, you know, been not a lot talked about basketball-wise, but if you have any closing thoughts.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what Milwaukee looks like these last 16 games with Chris Middleton back. I thought he looked pretty good against Phoenix, and if he's good, that certainly makes a difference for their run. It could make that series more challenging for the Celtics. So we're keeping an eye on that and looking forward to Wednesday night's game.
They're calling a technical on Pierce. Please. That is bogus! I'm with you, Doc. That is total ineptitude right there.
Nash made the free throw.
Now watch Pierce. He gets whacked hard. And I don't know if he said anything.
No, it didn't look like he did.
Didn't look like he said anything. And can he stare at the guy?
Apparently not.
Is that against the rules now, staring?
Apparently so.
I don't like that. What do you think of that?
Your point is well taken.